Hey guys, welcome back to Beer Fueled Fantasy Football. How's it all going? We are ready to break down 12 games for you guys. It is week 11, last couple weeks of the regular season. I hope you guys are prepared for this as we are.
Nope, I'm not even close.
You're not prepared? All right. Well, I'm ready.
I'm like ill.
I'm in the hunt in I think almost every single league except for one, which I've thrown that one out long ago. So
yeah, there's one league I can't even start a full complement of running backs in.
Oh,
so
the Paul.
Yeah, I'm putting an opponent like that this week.
That's the dynasty league that I'm tanking in though, and it's not intentional. I literally have 6 people that are IR eligible.
It's also a 6 bye week, so it happens.
Yeah.
We're going to do our best to help you guys get through it, though. I am at Nick Sparts. To my right, Dan Thury.
At Thury BFF. What's up, guys?
And on the technology equivalent of the phone is Christopher Hopper.
At Hot BFF with 2 P's. How's it going? Hopefully you guys are on the hunt. I definitely am in most leagues, and I'm one away from an auto bid and Scott Fish.
That's awesome.
That is fantastic.
I'm not doing that well in that league.
I am in the playoffs after this last week, and I have us in the playoffs for King of the Draft as well.
Look at you.
Good.
Look at you doing things.
So, and then Scott Fish, I had to make up a Fournette and Alex Collins start, so I've done some work.
Yeah. Well, Alex Collins actually don't hate this week. Spoiler alert. So
we'll have some fun with that later once we get over to the Ravens game. If you guys want to follow us, though, and keep track of what we are up to, on Twitter, you can find us at BeerfieldFF. That's also where you can find us on Instagram if you want to get can art of the beer we're drinking, and Untapped if you want to get Hopper's beer reviews that he drops you every single episode. Beerfield Fantasy Football if you want to be able to jump on the live stream and ask questions like I'm sure we're going to get here shortly about your weekly start-sit questions. We can do that in between segments. We also do the live stream about 5:45, 6 p.m. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 10:30 a.m. on Sunday to answer just all your questions that you can possibly throw at a Sunday morning. Usually get 2 of us here, sometimes 3. We did do one Hopper solo show once, which was fun.
it was a disaster.
It was a disaster. So we try to get all your questions for us. We appreciate all of that. If you guys want to help us out even more, there's a couple more things you guys can do to help to support the show. Drop likes and comments on YouTube videos, drop us reviews on iTunes, or offer to hit us up to either send us beer, pick up our merchandise. We have shirts and hats available, or donate to our Patreon. All 3 of those help us very much. DM BeerfieldFF on Twitter or email beerfieldfantasy@gmail.com if you're interested in doing all that. But before we get to the news, all the injuries, recap what happened Thursday night, go through 12 games that we've got here on Sunday and Monday. Before all that, we got to let you know what is fueling us today.
Beer Fuel.
And we did not do a handoff, so we actually have 2 beers featured on. Hopper, what do you have down there in St. Louis?
So I am drinking a triple chocolate milk stout from Behemoth Brewing Company out of Buffalo Grove, Illinois. And the description is chocolate, much chocolate, wow, chocolate as fuck, like drinking a glass of chocolate from a glass. Or like drinking melted chocolate from a glass.
So what you're saying is there's chocolate.
Very
Apparently
chocolate.
really chocolate.
Oh, and as a quick aside, we did get props from Nicholas for getting a proper Scottish beer on.
Aw.
Good. Awesome.
That's good.
And it was delicious.
It was.
Yeah, I actually quite enjoyed that. So thank you, Scotland. For the beer we've got on today's episode, we've got Mary Berry Ale by Schlafly Brewing Company, based out of St. Louis, Missouri. Somehow their first time on the show. I swore we've had them on before.
I thought we did too. I don't know how that worked out.
So
They're just so common around here. They were like, yeah, I'm sure we'll get them on sometime.
Yeah, and that just never happened.
Never happened.
Well, and I think the thing about Illinois, though, too, is that we don't get a lot of Schlafly's unique stuff. We kind of always have the same 5 things, so it doesn't ever jump out to us.
That's
true.
true.
That's very true. We don't get a lot of their seasonal releases.
Well, you guys don't, actually. I get them now because I'm like 5 minutes from the brewery, but
I've seen a fair amount. I just know there's a lot more.
there is.
That we don't get.
They do a lot of just tap stuff that is delicious.
Yeah.
All right. But the Mary Berry Ale in particular is a red ale with blueberry, raspberry, and blackberry. It's inspired by French holiday pastries. Comes in at 6% ABV, and we'll give you a full review once we get through previewing the noon games. But before we get to all that, it's time for some news, Thursday night recaps, and talking some injuries.
News.
So news segment's going to be real quick today. Big news, though, is ESPN's Adam Schefter confirms Jimmy Graham broke his thumb on a block. He's expected to miss 4 to 6 weeks. It's week 11, droppable.
Yeah.
Done.
And this is why Jimmy Graham doesn't block. Why are we having him block?
Learn your lessons, Packers.
Come on, you have Mercedes Lewis and Lance
Kendricks.
And whoever that guy is who caught the touchdown last night.
That guy's got some.
Robert Tonyan.
Guy's got some dynasty upside. If you can let on a decent team. He's
That's
got
not
some
the-
metrics.
That's not the Packers.
Right. Not with Rodgers.
All right. And it's all tight end news today because the only other piece of news I have is the Bengals placed tight end Tyler Kroft with his foot injury on IR. He is done for the year.
Uzama.
Who's your mama?
It's all Hujmanzada.
Thrown back.
All of them.
All right. Since that's all I got for news, we get to go straight into the Thursday night recap.
What the hell happened?
All right. Seahawks win this one 27-24. Seahawks were down, I believe, 14-3 at one point in this game, came back and won. Packers kind of folded in the second half. Hopper, what happened in this game? Any takeaways we have from it?
It was absolutely beautiful is what happened.
Right?
We may be biased.
Aaron Rodgers, 332 yards, 2 touchdowns. About a normal day from him. The only thing that stopped him from a great day, I think, was that last drive the Packers had where it was 4th and 2, and McCarthy's like, we'll just punt it. And they never saw the ball again.
Yeah, our defense, which has not stopped the run at all today, is going to stop the run suddenly.
Yeah. Did not happen. Aaron Jones, by the way, showed that he is pretty matchup insulated. There just 11 carries in this one, but he had 5 receptions, 103 total yards, 2 touchdowns. He continues to get the bulk of the work. There was just one Jamal Williams carry, and he has grabbed this running back job by the throat.
It was criminal. He had just 11 carries in this game because he looked good.
That's what they've always done with their running backs.
And they were ahead for most of it.
Yeah.
It was flashbacks to the Falcons
Eddie
Patriots
Lace.
Super Bowl.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
God.
Yep. Devontae Adams got 10 of his 12 targets for 166, no touchdowns, but another big day from him. MVS was a dud, though, just 3 targets, and ESB didn't really do anything either. Seahawks cornerbacks have been good this year, but I really didn't expect only one Packers receiver to have a decent game.
Yeah, I was expecting more than one. At least Adams is safe, but man, the fact that MVS did nothing was a little bit of a shock. His average depth of target has dropped like a rock with Cobb out, though.
I'm not super shocked, but I mean, you expected more from a game that put up 51 total points.
Right. Jimmy Graham did break his thumb, as we mentioned in the intro. Robert Tonyan and Lance Kendricks in relief had just 3 total catches. Tanyan's 1 grab was for 54 yards and a touchdown.
And it was his first career catch.
It was. So, big first career catch. Don't necessarily start chasing that yet, though. That's all I got on the Packers.
Only other takeaway I'd have is their Packers pass rush is starting to come alive a little bit, so keep an eye on that. They may be a streamable defense in some nicer matchups.
Yeah, the Seahawks offensive line is garbage, too. That helps.
The Seahawks offensive line has been much, much better this year than it has been in previous years.
It's still not great. I don't have Wilson's sack numbers, but I know they've been better with the run, though.
Yeah, they've much better with the run, and they've at least been okay at the pass before this game. But that, I'm blanking on his name, but that
51.
51 was
51
just
was
always back
all day.
there.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to Seahawks.
Is that Martinez?
No, Martinez is 50.
I think he's an IR too.
No, he's not. He's their middle linebacker, so I don't know why he'd be rushing
It's
anyway,
the guy who plays opposite Matthews. I'm blanking on his name though.
I don't know. I heard it before the game too. I don't remember it. Anyway, Seahawks. Russell Wilson was pretty mundane through this until the fourth quarter, when he mounted a comeback, 225 yards, 2 touchdowns, decent floor day. Didn't give you a ton of rushing yards in this one, but you'll take it. As predicted, Chris Carson's carries were scaled way back from the 30 or so he was getting before the injury. Both Penny and Davis were involved at different points in the game, but Carson did still get the bulk. He got 17 carries, 83 yards, and a touchdown to give you a very good day. And Penny was more limited. He just had 8 carries and 46 yards. Davis got the last 4 carries of the game in mop-up duty. He wasn't involved before that.
Yeah, he was a minor pass catcher up before that point. I will say, I was a little surprised they went immediately back to Carson because he literally fumbled the first play of the game.
Shows confidence.
Yeah.
Yep.
It is his job. We saw that for sure. Penny had one really nice run, but beyond that looked pretty meh. He may have hurt his foot a little bit, though.
He did. As for the receivers, Doug Baldwin was targeted early in this game. I don't want to say often, but early. I think 8 of his 10 targets were in the first half. He managed just 51 yards on those. He did score a touchdown, but really, if you're getting double-digit targets, you want to see more than 51 yards. But he has not been doing a ton with his targets, and I'm not sure if it's age catching up to him or if it's still the knee acting up. But even when he's getting targeted, even though he's pulling the receptions, what he's doing with those is not good.
He said this week the knee wasn't bothering him anymore, so I'm not sure, but at least he got in the end zone. He actually, the pass before also should have been a touchdown before his actual touchdown because Wilson just missed him. Wilson missed him twice in the end zone, actually.
It seems like with Wilson, he's pretty meh for the first 3 quarters, and then he kind of just comes alive when he realizes, oh shit, I can actually throw the football, and now I hand the football off a bunch of times. And that's when you start to see some of these receivers get more usage.
Yep. Tyler Lockett, speaking of receivers with the usage, he had 71 yards, but 50-ish of those came on 2 late back-to-back catches, one for 34, one for 16. And one may not have even been a catch. So
hey, still counts.
It counts. But that's what he, on one hand, that's not, doesn't make you feel safe or warm and fuzzy. But on the other hand, it's what he can do for you is turn a complete crap game into a decent one on 2 catches.
Yeah, it was looking like I made a real bad call, and then he got like 50 yards on back-to-back plays. It's like, oh, that's okay.
Yeah. And then as for the tight ends, Ed Dixon had a touchdown on his lone target. Vinette had 1 reception for 17 yards on his 2, so they just continue to not be worth a whole hell of a lot. And that's all I got on Seattle.
And Vinette missed the end zone by about a half a yard.
Yeah.
He was diving for it, but he couldn't quite reach, and then Carson punched it down the next play. All right, before we get to our Week 10 preview, we got to talk about some guys who are in, out, or check back Sunday, as we like to say, which it's going to be a light running back week. Finally, it's all wide receiver injuries this week. But starting off with players that we've confirmed in who have been either questionable or missed time recently, Royce Freeman is back from his high ankle sprain. How do we expect that to impact the Lindsey situation?
Not a whole lot. I mean, even with Freeman out, Booker just mixed in with pass catching, and Lindsey's touches didn't really skyrocket. He's remained efficient all year, so I think you're just going to get what you've gotten all season from Lindsey, which is an efficient 12 to 15 touches.
It may limit his ceiling ever so slightly, but as Hopper said, not much has changed.
I think goal line is going to be the biggest difference because I think they view Freeman as more of a goal line back than Lindsey.
Who does Denver have this week? I'm blanking.
Chargers.
Could be.
And then Mohamed Sanu was questionable early in the week, but he is healthy. He is going to go, and he's off the injury report.
The terrible matchup, so don't blame him anyways.
All right. As for some guys who are out, Chris Thompson is, with his ribs injuries, missing yet another game.
Yeah, if you still own him at this point, I don't know what you're holding on for, at least in redraft.
I mean, the league I have him, it's like I have no other options. Some of our leagues are way too deep as we're getting farther into the season.
Very, very true.
It's so deep that even 741 can't be seen here.
And
then on the receivers, where Marvin Jones has been confirmed out with his knee issue. He's getting a second opinion on it, too.
Nailed it, but that's scary. TJ Jones should fall in for him. And then I mentioned Bruce Ellington is a real deep cut start of the week for me.
Yeah, I'm going to probably lean off of Stafford off the start of the week for this one. Only one healthy target. You can see a lot of his average depth target. I'm going to assume his average attempt is probably going to be low. You see a lot of passes to guys like Theo Riddick and Kerryon Johnson in this game.
Yep. Josh Malone is missing likely an opportunity with AJ Green doubtful this week. He is out again.
Meh.
I'm not shocked.
Jamison Crowder missing another one with the ankle.
Jesus.
Not shocked.
No.
See Chris Thompson.
Yeah.
Chad Williams is missing again with the ankle.
Don't care.
And then Jordy Nelson and Martavis Bryant both out with knee injuries.
Brendan LaFell.
Brandon LaFell rule.
The fuck,
That's why I wanted to put those two together.
Also my start of the week.
And then tight end Michael Roberts is out with a shoulder.
Levine,
I mean, maybe they use tight ends more. I don't know.
It is against the Panthers, who are the worst.
Yeah, and they have only one outside threat now.
Yeah,
Luke Wilson.
Yeah.
Luke Wilson.
Levine, Toilolo. Screw it. Throw one of them out there.
Shout out to the Podfather.
All right. For Checkback Sunday at quarterback, you've got the double whammy of Joe Flacco and Lamar Jackson.
Illness.
Flacco is doubtful with a hip, and Lamar Jackson is questionable with illness. And he may not get the start anyway, so we'll have a lot to talk about Sunday morning with whoever gets named starter.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah, it's this.
We may have to redo that entire game depending on whether Jackson or RG3 gets the start. So check back Sunday morning.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. No running backs, thankfully. At wide receiver, we've got AJ Green doubtful with the toe.
I don't think he plays.
Yeah, I don't either.
Too bad, because he's kind of had the Ravens' number for a while.
Right.
Well, especially week 2, 3 touchdowns.
John Ross, questionable with a groin injury.
Jesus.
Tyler Boyd season.
Your wide receiver core for the Bengals, Alex Erickson. Alex Erickson. Cody Core and Tyler Boyd.
Shout out Andrew Erickson.
I was going to say he's
analyst for Gridiron Pros, I believe.
Yeah, I don't know. We like him, though. He's a good dude.
Kiki QT is questionable with a hamstring again.
Yeah.
They might shut him down. I wonder if they'll shut him down for the year.
Demarius Thomas, start of the week.
And Chris Godwin, questionable with an ankle. He did get a full practice in today, so it looks like he probably does go.
Good matchup.
Yeah, especially if he gets the cornerback 2 for the Giants would be an awesome matchup for him.
I would assume so.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to put Jack Rabbit on him with Evans on the other side of the field.
Yeah, that'd be a surprising decision. Let's see how it works out for him.
We'll see if it works. Evans blows up.
All right, that's all I got for injuries. We got 12 games to run through, so let's get the weekly preview going.
Weekly preview.
And starting us off is the aforementioned Bucks versus Giants game. Giants are favored by 1.5 at home. It is a 52.5 point over-under, so expect a little bit of fireworks in this one. Hopper, what can we expect from these two teams?
All right, starting with the Bucks for Ryan Fitzpatrick. Giants are not fantastic against the pass. They've been good against the likes of Nick Mullins, Dak Prescott, Blake Bortles, and road Drew Brees early in the season. They've been bad against Deshaun Watson, Cam Newton, Carson Wentz, and Matt Ryan. He's a back-end quarterback one for me. He does always have the opportunity for turnovers, but with these weapons, and looking at the list of quarterback stats performing against the Giants, my hunch is this is going to be a relatively decent game for him. Mr. Peyton Barber, he was my start of the week. Their Giants are 10th in points allowed to running backs after back-to-back weeks, allowing 25-plus to AP and Matt Breida. They've allowed a rush touchdown each of the last 4 weeks. They're up to 29.1 points per game allowed over the last 3 games. And Peyton Barber looked decent against against a decent Washington Redskins run defense. So go ahead and run him out there in your flex spot this week. I don't love either wide receiver. The Giants has allowed just 5 wide receivers into double digits all season. Godwin is kind of a wide receiver 3-4 type for me. As Nick mentioned earlier, he does potentially get the Giants' second cornerback, which is not proven great. But Mike Evans is a 2 with upside. He's going to get Janoris Jenkins, and he's been tremendously inefficient the last 2 weeks. It's giving you back-to-back duds. So I'm just kind of cool on his upside right now, even though he is still getting the target volume. And then O.J. Howard, while it's not a great matchup for a tight end standpoint, he does have a touchdown 3 of his last 5 weeks, so he's worth throwing out there as a start, especially with the tight ends being even thinner now with the injuries we just mentioned.
All right, and on to the Giants.
Eli Manning, another one of my starts of the week. I think I've covered all 5 of them now. If you missed Wednesday's episode within the first however many minutes. But he's coming off of a good week. Alex Smith is the only quarterback the Tampa defense has held under 20 points this season. He's a high-end streamer. He's also had 35 or more attempts in every game, so odds are he's probably going to have a pretty decent game. Saquon Barkley, it's a great matchup. You start your studs. It's your Beckham and Shepard. You're going against Tampa Bay, who's hoarding against wide receivers. You start Beckham confidently, as with most weeks. Shepard's an upside play, even though he's getting lower volume just because of how bad this offense is. Evan Ingram, Tampa Bay has given up double digits to tight ends 5 of their last 7 games. They have 8 games allowing 50 or more yards, and most of that's on 6 or fewer targets, which is about where Evan Ingram sits, is in that 5 to 7 target range. I love him as a start this week. And if you're looking for an emergency defense, the Giants are a high upside, low floor type of play. It's very boom busty, but Fitzpatrick is bound to toss a couple of turnovers, as with most weeks. He's, a 4-pick game away from losing his job again. So the Giants are a team that has some upside to them, even though the floor is a crater, basically.
I think I'm going to start calling these type of defensive plays trapdoor defenses, where you might be able to score some points, but you may end up in the basement when the floor comes out from under you.
That's exactly what this is.
That sounds about right.
All right. Up next is Titans visiting the Colts in Indianapolis. Colts are 2-point favorites at home, so expect a close one here. 48.5-point over-under. Can Mariota keep it going? He's had 2 nice games in a row.
Speaking of Mariota, this Titans team, after starting the season banged up and struggling offensively, Mariota has started to find his groove. Back-to-back 2 touchdown games, including a rushing touchdown a couple weeks ago. His floor has increased, which means he's up to decent streaming level. It is a good matchup. The Colts are pretty much middle of the road against all positions this season. But they've given up the second most rushing touchdowns to QBs this year with 3. So there is a decent amount of floor for him. He's starting to run a little bit more. I consider him a mid QB2 with QB1 upside. As for this running game, it's been a little bit annoying to predict, but we've seen the trend increase towards Dion Lewis as the true RB1 role, knocking Derrick Henry out of that, which makes him a good RB2 start this week. He was my start of the week as well. Colts are very, very bad against pass catching backs. A bottom 5 team allowed in receptions, yards, and I believe touchdowns to the position this year. As for Derrick Henry, if you really want to chase touchdowns, you can, but it's the snaps that I'm concerned with about. He's been trending downwards. He's only averaging 25% of snaps over his last 3 games, and that's since the London game. So if your trade deadline's still there and you had an opportunity to move Henry, I hope you would have after his 2 touchdown game, because it's not looking good else after this.
Anytime you can move Henry high, do so.
Yes. And then as for the receivers, only one receiver you can really trust here, and that's Corey Davis. He's had back-to-back 10-plus target games during that span, 13 catches, 181 yards, and a touchdown. Makes him a good wide receiver 2-3 flex play this week. And like the QBs, again, Colts are middle of the road against receivers, so I'm playing Davis with confidence as the offense is starting to get better. You're starting to see him get involved more. And you can't trust any other receivers because Taywan Taylor's got 30 targets. He's the second highest on the team. Davis has 76. So there's a clear gap between the 1 and 2 here. As for Jonnu Smith, he's my tight end start of the week. This is a little bit deeper call here, but 16 bye. A lot of tight ends are banged up or hurt. You're chasing touchdowns, and that's what Jonnu Smith can potentially get you. Just don't get crazy with them. Don't start him over guys like Rudolph, Reed, or Doyle. As they, present a safer floor with the similar upside. And then I'm leaving the Titans defense on the bench. They've been very good this year, but this is a very, very good offensive Colts team, and Luck has been on fire. So
Six straight with 3 touchdowns?
6 straight with 3 or more touchdowns. Speaking of Andrew Luck, in those 6 straight games with 3 more touchdowns, he's done this against good and bad QB matchups, so he's pretty much matchup proof. His touchdown rate on the season is 7% right now.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. His INT rate is right on average at 2.4.
Hey, I'll take it.
Yeah, that's right.
And most of those were not his fault either.
Yeah, and all of them probably came in 1 game. Anyways, as for the running backs here, Marlon Mack, this isn't a good matchup for him. Titans are very good against running backs, against both kinds of running backs. They're giving up 3.89 yards per carry on the season to backs and only 3 total touchdowns, 3 rushing, no receiving to all backs. It might be hard to sit Mack this week, but given his coming back down to earth last week, you can leave him on the bench if you can. As for the receiving games, a bit hard to predict here as well. T.Y. hasn't been very consistent, but he has a lot of upside. So at worst, he's a wide receiver flex option this week, especially given where the Titans' weakness is, and that is 2 receivers, and that's especially with Malcolm Butler and whoever he covers. He's a 96 ranked PFF corner, or a corner per PFF. But if you really want to get cute, I guess you can try to throw out Rodgers or Grant because one of those two could likely face him. But I don't know how you can trust him in a decent sized league. As for tight ends, it's a bad tight end matchup. Titans are number 1 against tight ends this season, and only given up 3.28 points per game, and they've given up 0 touchdowns on the season. That's where Ebron makes his heyday, is what he's done for the red zone work, because his snaps have been tremendously low compared to Doyle's. But I don't know how you can sit either of them as well, just given the tight end landscape at this point. So you can play them both. I'm trusting Doyle for floor more. A little bit more than Ebron, but Ebron's touchdown outside is insane right now.
He is currently on pace to tie the tight end touchdown record.
Yeah, it's unreal, just given the lack of work he gets. And then if you want to get cute with the defense, I'm not liking them that much this week. The Titans have looked a lot better offensively, and Mariota generally doesn't take a lot of sacks or throw turnovers.
All right, that all you got on that game?
Yeah, that's it.
All right, up next, we got our first 50-point plus over-under game with Panthers going into Detroit to play the Lions.
We had one earlier. Giants-Bucks, 52.5.
I'm wrong. I thought the first two games were in the 40s. My mistake. Second game, then. Panthers-Lions going into Detroit. Panthers are road favorites by 4, 50.5-point over-under. On the Panther side, Cam gets an awesome matchup. The Lions' pass defense is trending in the wrong direction. They have 1 interception in their last 6 games, and 5 of their last 6 opposing quarterbacks scored at least 2 touchdowns. The only one who didn't was Kirk Cousins.
Yep.
Slay is expected to play here. Does help their defense slightly, but he only missed 1 game, and they were still getting torched. So this is a top 5 matchup for Cam. Excellent play this week, and he is my number 3 overall quarterback. To opposing running backs, the Lions have just gotten torched all season, giving up 165 total combo yards. They've been a little bit better the last couple of weeks. Good running backs have killed them all season, so McCaffrey is a solid top 8 play, and I think he keeps his touchdown streak going. He's got, 5 in the last 3 games?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
No, he's got 7 touchdowns total last 3 games.
7 in his last 3?
Yeah, he had 3 last week?
Yeah.
And then 2 the last 2 previous, or then 4 last 2. He scored 2 or more touchdowns the last 3 weeks.
Jeez, okay. I don't know that he gets 2 touchdowns this week, but I think he gets you 1. Receivers I'm a bit worried about, though. Slay is going to be active, and the only receiver who has really dunked on Darius Slay this year is Devontae Adams. Devin Funchess is not Adams, so I'm treating him as a wide receiver 4. The player I actually like more is DJ Moore. He's had 5+ targets in 4 of his last 5 games, and slot wide receivers have scored 5 of the 13 wide receiver touchdowns in the Lions this year. And in 5 of 9 games, the leading receiver in terms of yards against the Lions has been the opposing slot receiver. So Moore's a wide receiver 4, but I would actually take him over Funchess this week as a start. Greg Olsen is an auto start at this point. He's actually my number 3 tight end in a pretty solid matchup. He's gotten 4+ targets in all 4 games since returning from the foot injury. He scored in 3 of 4 of those. Titans are a pretty average matchup, but just with Kittle on bye this week, Olsen's kind of the next guy up in my list right now. Expect his 40-60 yard range, and he's got a better than 50-50 shot at scoring a touchdown for you. I love the Panthers' defense this week, though. Stafford has just gotten destroyed the last couple of weeks. Panthers have an excellent front 7 and pass rush. So expect 3+ sacks on Stafford this week, if not more. So it should insulate your floor, and I don't expect this to turn into an absolute shootout. It should be moderately high scoring, but nothing crazy. So for the Lions side, Stafford is likely missing Marvin Jones, which was later get confirmed, and he's facing a middle-of-the-road pass defense in Carolina. Over the last 2 weeks, they've allowed 9 touchdowns, but in the first 7 games, they allowed just 12. So it depends on which defense you think to be the real one. Dan had him as a start of the week, but Stafford hasn't broken 20 fantasy points in a game since week 4, so for me, he is on the bench in 1 quarterback league.
I've also shifted that away. That was with Jones playing. And the Panthers, I mentioned during the start of the week that it was, giving up 5 passing touchdowns to Big Ben, and then 4 to Fitz, but multiple touchdowns or last 4 games is still a decent floor for a quarterback.
So lack of weapons is my main concern, and the fact that Stafford has not been doing it lately. Panthers on the flip side, though, run defense is awesome. They've allowed only 8 total touchdowns in 9 games, 108 total yards per game, which is bottom 5 in the NFL. So Carrion is still a running back 2, just based on the volume he started seeing the last couple of weeks with how many players are on bye. but don't expect a ton of ceiling here unless he manages to get in the end zone twice again randomly like he did against the Bears last week. And then Theo Riddick is actually an interesting flex play with no Tate and no Jones in this matchup. Expect a lot of targets and him to just straight up run as a receiver this week. So if you're desperate in full point PPR leagues, I like him as a flex play.
Yep.
Galladay's last man standing. Due to target volume alone, he should be a wide receiver too in a nice matchup here. And then Ellington was Hopper's start of the week. For me, he's more of a desperation wide receiver 4 type play. Hopper was digging deep on that one. But there is a narrative here. Captain Munnerlyn has been one of the worst cornerbacks in the slot this season. I believe he is the 4th or 5th worst slot cornerback in the league this year. So expect them to try to work that matchup. Ellington has only been with the team about a week and a half, though, so I don't know how many snaps he's going to get. That's my main concern as to why it's a risky play. Panthers are the worst team in the NFL against opposing tight ends. Michael Roberts is out, so if you're super desperate, Luke Wilson is kind of the last guy standing because Toilolo is more of a blocking tight end. So if you're looking for an angle, here it is.
Want to get cute.
If you want to get real cute. That's all I got on that matchup, though. I am not considering the Lions' defense. They've been awful. Now, next, we've got Bengals going to Baltimore to play the Ravens, and because of the quarterback situation, we have no line, we have no over-under. So, Hopper, how much scoring are we going to expect in this game? Because the Bengals' defense has been less than ideal this season.
Bengals' defense has been less than ideal, but so is their offense. Lamar Jackson, if he can go, you don't really know what you're going to get. I would expect this game to be low scoring, probably somewhere in the low to mid 40s, probably.
Okay.
At best. As for the Bengals, Andy Dalton, this offense has been completely stalled the last couple of weeks. Baltimore's been giving up a ton through the air, 29.8 points per game over the last 2 weeks, actually, to quarterbacks. But he's just a deep streamer kind of a void guy for me.
I'm assuming you'd feel very differently if Green was fully healthy.
I would, but I don't know that. I'll get to him in a minute. But yes, I would. As for the running back, though, we'll just go ahead and touch on Joe Mixon real quick. Connor, CMC, Kamara have all had double-digit weeks against Baltimore. Mixon's kind of cut from a similar mold. He had 87 total yards against Baltimore earlier this season. I don't expect it to be a giant game for Mixon, but he's completely fine to run out there. AJ Green, I'm a little more concerned about with the toe and him being doubtful. If he does play, I feel like, as he has been in the past, he may just be out there as a decoy with an injury. He's got the only 20-plus point a game against Baltimore this year, but I think it's kind of a trap if he does play, and I would really try to steer away from him if I could, just knowing he's not 100%, and that they're desperate to play wide receivers. Boyd right now, the matchup isn't great, but he may be kind of a beneficiary of the LaFell rule. You're going to have to target somebody, so completely okay with Tyler Boyd. And CJ Uzama is the only tight end left standing. He has 4 targets in back-to-back weeks. It's another great matchup. And again, targets are going to have to go to somebody because one of Green and Ross probably are not going to go. So this game's just shaping up to kind of be a mess, honestly.
Agreed. Well, let's get to the even messier side where the Ravens
Oh, my God.
have a quarterback situation.
So I prepped this as if Lamar Jackson was starting because that was the last thing I saw in Roto World. But that being said, Cincinnati's not giving up a ton of rush yards to running quarterbacks, and he is a rookie that we had a lot of questions about his arm, not strength, but accuracy coming out of college, and he hasn't done a lot in the limited snaps he is getting to really make me say, all right, yeah, he needs to start. I trust him starting. I don't, so don't get cute with this one, basically. I mean, he could give you some rushing upside, but I don't love the prospects of it. Alex Collins, the Ravens should lean on the run game in this one a bit more. Cincinnati's given up 30-plus points to position over the last 5 weeks, including 22 to Ingram, 14 to Barber, and 32 to Hunt, 24 to Connor, 17 to Drake, and 10 to Ito Smith. So dust Alex Collins off, who's been on your bench for the last couple weeks, and go ahead and run him out there in this one.
Yeah.
I
expect they run him a lot to try to protect whoever the quarterback is.
I think they do too. And I'm going to avoid the wide receivers in this one. It's not because of the Bengals defense by any means. I just don't trust Jackson's arm. Now, if we tune in and RG3 starting, then yeah, okay, I'm going to look at target volume and say you can probably start those guys in the wide receiver 3 range. But I don't trust Jackson's development so far. So I'm going to try to steer away from those two, and the tight ends are a mess. So This game just has the makings to be defensive and ugly for fantasy.
Yeah. I don't really
outside
hate
of the running backs.
Well, I'd say less defensive, more just offensive ineptitude.
More just ugly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, John Brown can catch a big one, but you're hoping. I mean, this could be a really boom bust for the whole wide receiver position.
John Brown's a wide
Ravens.
receiver that if I had to start one of the Baltimore receivers that I would lean towards because he's a deep threat and Jackson does have the ability to just chuck it, and so does RG3.
Yeah. Just let him go run under it.
Yep.
That all you got?
That's all I got.
Are you going to start either the defense?
Baltimore's I actually don't hate. Cincinnati's no, because again, I just don't want to get cute with the unknown here, especially week 11 where a win or a loss can make or break your playoff situation. I'm not going to try to get cute by starting Cincinnati's defense, who's been terrible all year, or a rookie quarterback that we haven't seen. But Baltimore's I'm completely fine with.
Yeah.
All right.
I agree.
Next up, Cowboys travel to Atlanta to play the Falcons. Falcons 3.5-point favorites at home, so pretty close to neutral game here if this was at a neutral site. 48.5-point over-under. Can the Cowboys get it going against the hapless Falcons defense?
Yeah, for the Cowboys, I'm starting Dak, Zeke, and Cooper, all with confidence, all great plays. Dak has been a decent QB1 streamer over these past few weeks, and you got to see the offense become even more balanced and open up things more with the acquisition of Amari Cooper. Zeke is, of course, an auto start. Cooper was my start of the week. As I said, I trust them all with confidence. I'm not really playing anybody else, so you can kind of get cute with Beasley and Gallup, given that this is a decent matchup. But Cooper has dominated the target share since coming over at 26.8%, and a team that doesn't particularly throw a whole lot. And a lot of those targets will also go to Zeke as well, as he's gotten involved in the passing game.
He's on pace to shatter his target record by a lot.
I mean, we expected this. I didn't think it'd be at this rate, but I did expect an uptake. But with the acquisition of Cooper, I think that it helps this offense as a whole. But as for Gallup and Bees, like I said, I wouldn't. You can get cute in deep leagues if you want to, but I'm steering clear of that. Then Jeff Swaim's the tight end to own here if you really want to get cute with that, but his appeal is only in deep two tight end leagues. As for the Falcons, I'm not playing the Cowboys defense. It's a good defense, but this is one of the better offenses.
They're missing multiple pieces. They have no tackle Charlton, and I think they're missing a defensive tackle too, possibly. So do not start the Cowboys defense.
I don't think it would have mattered. That's how good Matt Ryan and the Falcons have been playing. And speaking of Matt Ryan, he's an auto start. 21 touchdowns this season to just 3 picks. His floor is as good as any other QB this season. He's thrown for over 325 yards in every game but one since week 3. His interception rate is the lowest of his career on the season at 0.9%. So he's safe with the football as well as he's thrown a bunch of touchdowns. And then as for the running game here, the increased involvement in the passing game for Tevin Coleman has given him the RB2 status for me moving forward, because that involvement's been there for the past 2 to 3 weeks now, at least, or 2 to 3 games. The issue is that his production's been really up and down. He's not super efficient. We've talked about this throughout the season and then throughout the season and then some into the preseason, where the more works he get, the less efficient that he tends to be. But the receiving floor is what gives him that type of floor that we like to see from him. So you may not get an RB1 type of day, but you should get at least a mid-2 at worst. And as for Edel Smith, not the best. It's not a great matchup for him. And his involvement in the passing game has been somewhat split with Coleman, but it's not enough to overcome the lack of running work that he gets in this offense. And he's only averaging 3.6 yards per carry on the season. For receivers, Julio Jones is an obvious auto start. But as I said on the start sits on Wednesday, I'm not playing Ridley. I'm definitely not playing Sanu. Cowboys are just really good against receivers. They don't give up a lot of big plays. And the only reason Julio is obviously fine is because of the type of volume that he gets, where he should at least give you a floor day at worst. Then Austin Hooper has reached kind of his every week starter. He's been, 3 of his last 5 games, he's had over 10 targets. He's been a top 5 tight end in those weeks. There is some concern with his floor wise, but even then in those smaller games, he won't completely dudge you or kill you. You're looking at 3 to 4 receptions for 40 yards, which is fine.
Yeah, I of the kind of tight end breakouts this year, I got 2 out of 3. You guys got Kittle, I got Ebron and Hooper, so we did okay there.
Yeah, I mean it's been a nice, fine for us given what the upper tight ends of outside of Ertz and Kelsey have really given us.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's all I have for that game. I'm not playing either defense.
All right. Steelers going up into Jacksonville to play the Jaguars. Steelers are favored by 5.5 on the road. 46.5 point over under, so they're not expecting a ton of points out of it either. For the Steelers, 3 of the last 4 quarterbacks to face Jaguars have scored 3 touchdowns, and that was Dak, Wentz, and Luck. So this is road Ben, but with 6 teams on bye this week, he's still a low top 12 play for you. And Jacksonville has not been nearly as scary as they were against opposing quarterbacks down the stretch here. They have, though, been very, very good against opposing running backs. Allowing just 5 total touchdowns so far in the season, 120 total yards per game to opposing backs. What saves Connor, though, is he gets 80 to 90% of the touches. So he's going to be a low-end running back 1 just based on pure volume. You expect him to get the majority of those 120 yards. He's got a better-than-average chance of getting in the end zone with what we've seen him here with 10 touchdowns already on the year rushing. I think he's got a receiving touchdown, too. You're still going to roll Connor out there as an RB1. Don't get cute and start Jalen Samuels.
I don't register that name.
The main weakness for the Jaguars is slot receivers. So I actually like Juju as a low-end wide receiver 1 this week. 40% of all yards and touchdowns have come from slot receivers against the Jaguars so far this season. It's not a ton of production. They've still been pretty good against opposing wide receivers in general, but that seems to be the most effective way for them to attack the Jaguars. So I love a Juju start this week. Brown is still a wide receiver 1, but this is definitely one of those lower expectation matchups. I've got him more as like my wide receiver 6 or 7 in a tough matchup. He's either going to get Ramsey or Bouye all game long. As for the Jaguars, matching up against tight ends, it's a tough matchup going into the last couple of weeks, but then they won over the last 2 games. They've allowed 5 total touchdowns to the tight end position. Vance is the more likely of the 2 to score. He is a fringe kind of like tight end 13-14 type in 12-man leagues. You may have to start him if somebody owns 2 tight ends that you'd rank above him this week. I love the Steelers' defense. Jaguars have broken 20 points just once over the last 6 weeks. They're averaging 2 turnovers and 2 sacks a game. And the Steelers' pass rush has been awesome the last couple of weeks. They're going to get after Bortles. There's multiple offensive linemen missing for the Jaguars. Steelers' defense is a top 6-7 defensive play for you. I'm not too worried about the defense letting up. They've been trending in the right direction in all the right ways, which I'll get to momentarily here as we start to talk about the Jaguars, where Bortles, you should bury 6 feet underground this week. Don't even consider him. The Steelers' defense is no longer what they were at the start of the season, where they're giving up massive games to opposing quarterbacks.
Oh, I'm starting him. Mostly because I have no other choice.
I mean, if you are, you're desperate.
He's going to throw 5 touchdowns.
In the last 5 games, they're allowing just 225 yards passing per game and 7 touchdowns over those 5 games.
It's going for 650 and 4.
650 and 4. That's a little light on the touchdowns for 650 passing yards.
No. You see Bucks and Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, see Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Exactly.
So based on volume alone, Fournette should still be a low running back 1 for you this week, but don't expect a ton of efficiency. Steelers are holding opposing running backs to 3.69 yards per carry. That they do allow a touchdown per game, and Fournette's the most likely one to score of any of the opposing running backs. Yeldon Hyde just don't get enough consistent volume. I mean, 16-team PPR league, maybe you're considering rolling out Yeldon, but for the most part, just don't even bother with these 2. I'm benching every single one of the Jaguars receivers. No receiver has broken 60 yards in the last 3 weeks against the Steelers, and they've allowed only 11 wide receiver touchdowns this year, and only 3 of them have come since week 6.
Yep.
Want nothing to do with...
Moncrief's going to go for another 80-yard touchdown.
Of course.
Just because reasons.
And then since week 2, the Steelers have allowed just 8 sacks on Ben and only 6 turnovers total. Do not start the Jaguars this week.
No. We do have questions rolling in.
We do have a question.
All right.
Questions?
Questions. Ooh. So Jimmy says, Michael Thomas finds the end zone this week. That's a question. And the answer is
yes.
More than likely yes. MK Double, I haven't seen your name before, so welcome to the stream, man. Thanks for tuning in. Flex question, Deshaun Jackson and Doug Martin. If you can provide some sort of league scoring in there, I don't think it matters for me. I'm playing Doug Martin for Jackson in all formats.
Unless it's like big play bonus or something, I'm going Doug Martin.
Yeah.
I am with you guys. I would also go Doug Martin in that one. Jackson just hasn't been seeing the volume, so you're relying on a big play and a touchdown. I actually like Doug Martin this week a lot. I don't think that the game script's going to blow him out.
Yeah.
And they really have no one else to give the ball to at this point.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Invoking the Brandon LaFell rule on Doug Martin.
Pretty
Brandon
much.
LaFell.
That's right.
All right. Texans v. Redskins. Texans favored by 3 points on the road. I believe they're going for their 7th straight win here. It's a 42.5 point over-under. Hopper,
Holy crap.
what can we expect out of the Texans this game? They've been just on fire the last couple of weeks.
You're going to start Deshaun Watson against Washington. They've allowed 30 or more points to quarterbacks in 5 of the last 6 weeks. 300 plus yards each of the last 3 weeks, and 250 plus all the way back to week 3.
So at least a floor game minimum.
Yeah, probably plus, if I had to guess. As for Lamar Miller, he's kind of that running back 3, back in 2 type of play that he normally is when he's giving you his floor. Washington's a tough run defense despite making Peyton Barber look somewhat good. So Miller should be a flex at best. I got the hiccups. As for the wide receivers, Demaryius Thomas, DeAndre Hopkins, both fantastic starts this week. Washington's allowed multiple wide receivers into double digits 5 times this year, doing it 28 points a game to the position. Chris Godwin, Michael Gallup, Devin Funchess, Torrey Smith, Geronimo Allison, all notable section options to have big games. So I love Demaryius Thomas this week. If you're questioning anything, DeAndre Hopkins is a start your stats candidate. And then the defense, start them confidently because Washington's offense is bad. On to the Redskins, if there's nothing else on the Texans. I don't trust Alex Smith. I don't trust the wide receivers. A poem by me.
So it's the worst haiku ever.
Yeah. Other than that, Adrian Peterson, see everything I just said about Lamar Miller. Not a great matchup, but should be a floor day on the back end for him. Jordan Reed has not been getting it done, to talk about the tight end here. But tight ends are notably shallow. Houston did give up 14 to Hireman and 127 total 14 points to Hireman and 127 total yards to Denver tight ends their last time out. So maybe there's something there, but that's not a trend. That was more of an exception game rather than the rule. And Jordan Reed's been kind of floor at best. So I think you probably have to start him if you own him, but don't bank on anything good there, like with most tight ends.
All right. And what about the defenses in this matchup?
I hit on the Texans defense. Start them because Washington's offense is crap. And as far as the Redskins defense, the way that Washington's offense has been rolling with Demaryius Thomas there, I don't like them a whole lot this week. I think if you don't have any better options on your waiver wire, that they're not going to go negative on you or anything. But I wouldn't be surprised if they're in that 4 to 7 point kind of just nasty defense range.
I mean, some weeks you take that.
You have to.
All right. Austin Murray coming in with a couple questions here. Up first, he first asked Corey Davis or Doug Baldwin PPR. Unfortunately, Doug Baldwin's already played, so you're playing Corey Davis.
Yep. Doug
Unless
Baldwin
you had to decide between the two and you decided to go with Doug Baldwin.
Yeah, in full PPR, Doug Baldwin probably gave you about 14 points last night, though.
Yeah. All right. And he says
He's from the past. He's a time traveler.
Yeah, if you have a TARDIS, I would probably start Doug Baldwin.
Yes.
And if you have a TARDIS that stops working Saturday. Matt Bryant or Gostkowski for next week. Gostkowski plays in New York. Matt Bryant plays in New Orleans.
Matt Bryant.
Matt Bryant.
If he's healthy.
If he's healthy.
Gostkowski's been safe-ish.
But yeah, Bryant in the dome and a shootout against the Saints.
Yeah.
If he's healthy and playing, give me Bryant. And then Olsen or Burton in PPR.
Olsen.
Yep, I actually like both. Both are top 5 plays for me this week, but it's Olsen.
Olsen's volume and upside is just higher.
He corrects it. Corey Davis or Alshon Jeffrey against the Saints.
Oh, that changes everything. Alshon Jeffrey, easily.
Yeah, give me the guy with in a game that can go 70 plus.
I wouldn't be shocked if it did.
Exactly.
I'm gonna have some popcorn for that game.
Give me Jeffrey.
And watch, it's gonna dud.
No, it's gonna all be like Nelson Aguilar and Taywan Taylor.
All right. If that's all you got for questions, we're through the noon games, which means it's time to review a beer.
Burr.
Or beers.
Beer review.
The Bears.
The Bears.
All right, Hopper. How was the triple chocolate stout?
I think chocolatey as fuck might have been an overstatement, but overall it's a very solid chocolate milk stout. Definitely some dark chocolate on the nose. It finishes sweet, like the sweetness lingers on your lips almost, which is a unique thing for me. Very creamy back end finish, as is common in chocolate milk stouts. It's right up there with Four Hands. I don't know that it's any chocolatier, but it's still a very, very solid take on a chocolate milk stout.
All right. Dan, what'd you think of Schlafly's Mary Berry?
Well, they weren't lying about the berry just being, it's all up in your grill. Like you get
it is all in your grill.
You get a lot of combinations of raspberry and blueberry. I don't get much of the black cherry, but
Blackberry,
excuse me. It's got a I don't know how to frame it wise, but it's got like a pastry. Yeah, like the vanilla really sticks out.
I mean, they said they designed it after a pastry, so I can.
It reminded, when I was drinking it, it reminded me of like a blueberry scone.
Yeah, there it is, scone. There it is. I mean, like, it's unique.
I'm not sure beer can be flaky, but I almost get like a little bit of a weird mouthfeel, like I'm eating a pastry.
Yeah,
and it's there for about a second or two.
Yeah,
and
it's just
then
a moment.
Gone. Like, but it's like, holy shit, that all right. And then it just finishes as that traditional ale we get.
I'm sure there's probably some lactose and vanilla or something like that.
There's lactose. There's
vanilla in there for sure. If they didn't put it on the can, they definitely had it on their menu.
Yeah. It's definitely there.
But yeah, it's I like that it's got just a hint of the red ale, but it's got a bunch of complex flavors. A little early for holidays. I think this probably should have been a post-Thanksgiving beer.
So what I've noticed is that they distribute like their seasonal beers.
Oh, it all comes out way early
because people are looking for like pumpkin beers, and we're like, yeah, we got like one left. Now we have a bunch of Christmas beers.
Yeah, no, they all like Oktoberfest drop in freaking August.
Yep.
Yeah, they're all way ahead of time. I'm saying we probably should have picked it up and held it for a couple weeks until post Thanksgiving.
I mean, it's still there, so I mean, we can have a
review
if you really need to.
Yeah, I really like that one though. I had it at Bottle Works off draft a little while back, and I got everything you did, but that aftertaste was the unique part to me, but not in a bad way. Just that vanilla, it almost tasted like the icing glaze or whatever that they put on a scone.
Yeah,
it's got some
a toaster strudel,
raspberry toaster strudel.
Raspberry. I mean, it's there.
Yeah, it's definitely got some unique flavors to it. So I've not had anything quite like this before. So Schlafly, anytime anyone makes something really unique, shout out to you guys.
Exactly.
Indeed.
Yeah, I would prefer a little bit more of a beer taste to go with it, but for what they were trying, they were obviously trying to do something really cool.
There. I did it on the back end too.
Yeah, but not a lot. It's just kind of a hint of a beer.
Yeah.
All right. Up next, we're going to the shootout in the Superdome, the aforementioned Eagles-Saints game. Saints are 8-point favorites at home with a 56-point over-under. What are we seeing in this game?
But before we get to that game, we got a question from Jimmy.
Jimmy's got another question.
Who would you guys want to have going forward for the rest of the season? Brandon Cooks or Robert Woods in a full point PPR league?
In a full point PPR league, give me Robert Woods.
Robert Woods, yep. He's got a safer floor, doesn't have the big boom upside, but I don't think Cooks is really giving you a big boom play.
He hasn't given me his giant blow up week. He's been relatively solid all season though, but yeah, give me Robert Woods.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Woods going rest of the season, given their matchups.
Yeah, I love both, but
yeah, I mean,
I'd take Woods. Give
you
him
can have
even
any
choice.
piece of that Rams offense of the main four there now.
Yep.
Without Cup, sadly.
All right.
Well, we'll go on to the Eagles Saints. We'll start with the Eagles, as always, away team. Wentz is an easy auto start. Saints are pretty bad against QBs this season, and this game could reach. I put down 65 plus total points. I think this could see upwards to 70 or even 80. You could see a repeat of the Saints Giants from a few years ago, where there was 13 passing touchdowns total in that game. As for the running game, Saints are still really good against running backs this season. They've only given up 3.27 yards per carry in the season, and a league low 488 rushing yards to running backs. That's total. Josh Adams has kind of been the talk, has been the most efficient runner, but he gets very little involvement to no involvement in the passing game, so don't get cute with him. Smallwood and Clement tend to split. Their pass catching work, they split pass blocking downs. It's just a bad matchup all around for Eagles backs. Leave them all on the bench. And as for the receivers, though, it's a completely different story. Jeffrey's my start of the week. We just talked about him. Saints have given up the most points to receivers this season at 34.36 points per game on the season, most yards and most touchdowns, and the 5th most receptions. Well, we still don't know the roles of Aguilar and Tate yet. I'm not going to put them up there in the wide receiver 2 or flex range, but they have good deep league value just given the amount of scoring and throwing that could happen in this game. I'm leaning more Aguilar over Tate, though, just because of the familiarity with the offense, and he's at least shown it within this offense this season. But they're all fine in those deeper leagues. And then for Zach Ertz, I don't see how you can sit Zach Ertz. So
you can't.
Yeah, if you do, you shouldn't be playing fantasy football. As for the Saints here, Breeze is on a whole nother level when he plays at home, and the Eagles are pretty meh against quarterbacks this season, giving up the 9th most points to the position. They've also given up 12 touchdowns, which is a lot, but only four interceptions. So this could be a huge week for Breeze as this offense is really starting to click. As for the running backs, Alvin Kamara is an auto start. Doesn't matter how well Ingram plays, Kamara just seems to get his own no matter what. As for Ingram, though, I think this is a bad matchup on paper. The Eagles are good against actual runners, but Ingram's involvement in the passing game, especially what we've seen recently, is starting to mirror what we saw last year between these two when they were really getting to go in midseason, which means he's even a good RB2 play this week, just given that pass-catching floor. And he has just as much upside to score multiple touchdowns on any given week, just how this offense runs. As for receivers, Michael Thomas, again, auto start easily. Traquan Smith, he gave you a goose egg last week, but this, again, it's a high-scoring plus matchup game script-wise. None of the receivers outside of Michael Thomas have done much. A lot of them are now hurt. But if you're going to go for a deep dart throw, good DFS play, Traquan Smith is not a terrible dart throw.
Target volume is my main concern with him. We
why
have not seen the targets move his way like we were expecting.
No. And they've all gone to running backs and Michael Thomas and even Ben Watson. Like I said, it's not a great play. It's a deep flex. It's not a 12-team or less. And speaking of Ben Watson, he is forever just an average tight end streamer. The volume and the production has been up and down because you just don't know who the 4th and 5th options are. Because it seems like the 1, 2, and 3 are pretty set with Thomas, Kamara, and Ingram. But the upside gives them the chance to score a touchdown on almost any given week. And with a depleted tight end, a position and 6 teams on bye, you could do worse. That's it.
Okay.
No defenses. Please, no defenses.
None. No, I am starting the Saints in a place where I don't have a choice.
Really?
Yeah.
Oof.
Broncos v. Chargers. Chargers are favored by 7 points at home against the Broncos. 46.5 point over-under. We're going to start with the Broncos side, where only one quarterback in the last 5 games against the Chargers has thrown for 2 touchdowns. It's been 1 or 0 for the rest, and no quarterback has thrown for 3+ touchdowns against the Chargers since week 3. That was Jared Goff. Keenum has been pretty meh most of the season, kind of right below QB average. Not a streaming consideration option in this game. Freeman does muddle by the backfield a little bit with his return. Chargers allowing 150+ yards to opposing backfields, though, but just 4 rushing touchdowns. This game script's more like a Lindsey game. I've got him as a mid-running back, too, based on his efficiency numbers he put up and the likely usage in the passing game. Freeman lowers his ceiling a little bit, may steal the chance for a touchdown, whereas Freeman is a low running back 3 at best, and you're very touchdown reliant in a bad matchup. If you were picked up Booker as a streamer with Freeman gone, you can now safely punt him back to the pile. Over the last 6, Broncos are allowing just 126 wide receiver yards per game and half a touchdown, so 3 touchdowns over that stretch. Sanders drops from his usual wide receiver 1 position down to a high wide receiver 2, and Sutton is a wide receiver 3 with you're hoping for a touchdown from him. This is not a great matchup for either one, and I don't expect Sutton's breakout game to come in this particular matchup. Hireman's not reliable enough to start as anything more than a desperation streamer in a pretty meh matchup. Chargers are slightly above average against opposing tight ends. And the Chargers have scored 20-plus points in every single game this season. Rivers has been sacked just 13 times. They have 7 turnovers on the season. Do not even consider starting the Broncos defense this week. Not a good matchup. On the Chargers side, Broncos are giving up an average of 250 yards and 2 touchdowns a game, which is basically Rivers' average stat line. So expect Rivers to be his normal, solid QB 9-12 self that he is all week in and week out.
On 26 attempts.
Yep. Run defense of the Broncos has gotten a lot better over the last 5 weeks from being bottom in the NFL to start this season. This is actually now a below-average matchup based on the metrics that have come in recently. Gordon's still a nice start. A lot of people ranking him as a top 3 player this week, and that's where he's sitting in Fantasy Pros right now. I do not have him there. I've got him close to running back 6. Slightly lower expectations from what some other people are projecting.
I mean,
run defense for the Broncos has gotten tough. He's still a start. I'm just saying, probably not a boom.
His involvement in that offense and the balance of that offense, this could be a 2-3 touchdown game just as well as it could be.
It can always be a 2-3 touchdown game for Gordon, but I'm saying less likely that we see that this particular week. And as the run defense has tightened up, though, the pass game has been trending in the wrong direction. 5 straight games of a wide receiver on the opposing team breaking 100 yards or scoring against the Broncos. The only game that they didn't break 100 yards was the Cardinals, and I'm not sure they really count as an offense. Keenan Allen is a mid-wide receiver 1 in this matchup. He's been trending upward the last couple weeks. Start him with confidence. Tyrell and Mike Williams are both low wide receiver 3s, but they do have some touchdown upside. If I'm picking one, it is Tyrell. Pretend the Chargers don't have tight ends, and there's also note came through during the episode here that Antonio Gates is going to be a game-time decision. Even if he's out, I'm not starting Virgil Green.
Virgil Green just blocks and catches 1 pass a game.
As for the Chargers defense, the Broncos are missing 3 starting offensive linemen, have broken 25 points in 2 games this season, and Keenum is already getting sacked almost 3 times a game before they lost 3 offensive linemen. Chargers defense is the top 3 play this week.
Yep.
All right. Up next to the ugliest game of the week, I think, with no Jets and Bills to bring into consideration.
Yep.
Raiders going into Arizona in the desert to play the Cardinals. Cardinals favored by 5.5, 40.5 point over under.
Oh my God.
How many people can you start?
God, it broke 40, huh?
Just barely.
Raiders, I have 2. Doug Barton and Jared Cook. Cardinals are still one of the worst teams against running backs this season, and Doug Martin's been a lone bright spot in this offense as of recent weeks. He's been fairly efficient when given his chances. And then with Jared Cook, he's still the number 1 pass catching option on this team, even though it's been pretty meh for him as well. The targets and the production have been very up and down. He's either going to give you 550 and a touchdown, or he's going to give you 2 and 20. That's just where he's at this point. You can get cute and try to play Brandon LaFell, and I know that's Hopper start of the week, and there's only receivers there. There is the whole rule. I don't know if I want to take that chance in week 11, but if I'm playing in a 12 team,
it was about this time last year where the rule came into being. So.
Yeah, which means he's going to go off, because I think Hopper said in the Start and Sits episode the last time we've called him for a breakout or for a start sit game, he broke out. So.
Yep, he sure did. He was a wide receiver 1 the last time we called for it.
Yeah, so, but I'm benching everybody else. I mean, Richard's this game should be somewhat close. I do like what the Cardinals could be doing offensively, but it's hard to predict game script, especially with a bad offense on both sides.
All right, on to the Cardinals.
Speaking of the Cardinals and me starting to like this offense a little bit more. The change with Leftwich here now, as offensive coordinator, has been good for Josh Rosen. He's been viable. He's a viable option in this 2 QB streamer flex type of leagues. Raiders have given up a 4-to-1 touchdown ratio this season. There's 20 passing touchdowns and just 5 interceptions. So a lot of upside for Rosen. David Johnson is an easy auto start. Raiders are just as bad against the run as the Cardinals are. And then the receivers here with the change over, Fitz has really gotten back into. He's had back-to-back double target weeks. The production hasn't quite hit there on that consistency standpoint, but you're getting at least 5 receptions in these games. So he's a good wide receiver 2-3 type of play this week. And even Christian Kirk has some flex appeal, 13 targets his last 2 games. At least gives him a chance, and the big playability with him almost every game. There's a chance for something there. But again, if you want to get cute, And then as for tight ends, RSJ was your start of the week, Nick, right?
RSJ was my start of the week because I ran out of options.
Yeah. 9 targets last week was a season high for him. The production is starting to potentially see that as his offense is starting to flow at least more productively as a whole. I think he scores this week. He hasn't scored since week 3, so I'm with you there as a good streaming candidate. And the defense is a very good play this week. Carr hasn't thrown an interception in his last 4 games, but he's taken 17 sacks and has only thrown 3 touchdowns, and all of it came in 1 game.
Yeah, and he's missing weapons.
Yeah. So.
Yep, love the Cardinals' defense this week. Their defense should be able to keep the Raiders into 3 and outs and keep this game where they don't have to be on the field too much.
It's not. Yeah, it's gross.
All right, time for Sunday Night Football, where the Vikings match up against the Bears. So you can expect there's going to be a lot of tension in the room.
We got some questions if you want to wait.
Jimmy wants to know, will Ebron break Gronkowski's 18 total touchdown record? He's on pace to tie it right now.
No.
He needs more snaps.
All right, and then Project Badass wants to know, do you start Watson or Trubisky this week?
Watson.
I agree. I got Trubisky as a back-end one and Watson as a high-end one. And then Project Badass also wants to know, Collins, Fournette, or Alshon Jeffrey in the flex. Scoring would be good to know.
Yeah,
Oh, man.
it does change things a bit because I'm a little more concerned with Collins, but
It's Fournette or Jeffrey.
It
I'm not
really
going to
is.
get crazy on this Alex Collins thing.
yeah. Standard.
Standard scoring? I think you got to go Fournette.
I think you go
Fournette.
I think you go with the floor.
You know
upside's
he's
about
going
the
to get
same.
like 25 touches. So.
Ooh. Yeah. Fournette.
All right. Sounds like we're going to go with Fournette. All right. Back to Sunday Night Football. Bears are favored by 2.5 at home, so it'd be almost a dead even game if this was a neutral site. It's only a 45-point over-under for 2 teams who generally break 25 points a game. So expecting a defensive slugfest and shutting down the offenses in this game. For the Vikings, Bears have an elite defense so far this season. They've allowed only 1 more touchdown than they've had interceptions created this season. 17-16. In 5 of 9 games, the starting QB threw for less than 200 yards, and in 4 of 9, the starting QB had 1 touchdown or less. This is a trapdoor game for Cousins, where he could be a single-digit performance, either due to turnovers or the offense just not being able to get it going overall.
This game concerns me so much.
He is my sit of the week, and he is not a QB1 for me this week. You may be able to find a better matchup. I'd recommend trying to go get somebody like Dak Prescott. Bears have allowed just 5 total rushing touchdowns on the season, and those were scored by 3 players. Johnson, White, and Johnson, the most interesting law firm ever.
Johnson, White, and Johnson.
The law firm of Johnson, White, and Johnson.
It was David and Carry On. On top of that, they're just one of 4 teams who haven't allowed 1,000 total yards to running backs over their first 9 games this season. Cook is a low running back too, and that is strictly on a volume play. So you're hoping for a lot of volume to make up for a bad matchup and a lot of receptions in.
Which I think he'll get.
But don't expect a touchdown. Don't expect a big performance out of Cook in this one.
Don't expect a 70-yard touchdown run.
The place where you're going to get some decent performance, though, is pass catchers. The Bears are much better against the run than they are against the pass. And this is where you're going to try to find your Viking starters. Thielen came off the injury report. He is fully healthy. Treat him as a mid to low wide receiver 1 in this particular matchup. Slot receivers haven't done anything particularly special against the Bears. Just its pass catchers in general seem to do okay. Diggs gets his usual wide receiver 2 grade in this matchup. Rudolph on the flip side has been awful. He has not broken 60 yards or scored since week 3. You can probably find a better option even in an okay matchup.
Maybe.
He is outside my top 12. Bears have been hot for 6 games straight where they have scored 24 plus. But Trubisky has taken sacks this year, does make some occasional mistakes, so this is another trapdoor start for the Vikings. They are a streaming option. Their ceiling may be there. They might be able to make some big plays happen. But the Bears have scored 24 plus in 6 straight games, so there may be a negative performance for the Vikings upcoming. Start at your own risk.
Trapdoor.
Trapdoor.
You like saying trapdoor today.
I do. I came up with it today, so that's why I'm saying it a bunch.
Well, and there's a lot of games that just meet that criteria, though.
There is a lot.
On the Bears side, Vikings are also an elite defense, specifically against opposing quarterbacks. In the 4 games leading up to the bye, they held every single quarterback under 250 yards with 1 or fewer passing touchdowns. So I like Trubisky more than Cousins this week, but it's not by much. They're both outside my top 12 this week.
Yeah.
On the ground so far, there's been 2 good performances by guys not named Gurley or Kamara, which should not count against a team. Chris Ivory with 136 yards on 23 touches, or David Johnson with 70 yards and a touchdown on 20 touches. Everyone else has been pretty quiet this season. Vikings have allowed just 5 total touchdowns on the seasons. 3 of those 5 were Kamara and Gurley. Howard is an RB3 play this week, and you're praying he falls into the end zone. And Cohen is a low running back, too, where you're hoping for a big play or 2. I don't like either one.
I like Cohen more than Howard, as stated during certain sets last Wednesday.
Same point I made last week, which I believe you guys read these notes out. 113 yards per game and 0 touchdowns allowed to wide receivers since their Week 4 matchup against the Rams. Teams are not able to beat them with wideouts. Robinson is a wide receiver 3 in this matchup and was almost my sit of the week, and Miller was my sit of the week.
Yeah.
The flip side, Vikings do struggle against tight ends. So Burton is a nice top 5 start for you this week. 6 tight ends have either top 60 yards and or scored on the Vikings this season. And Burton is either going to be the 3rd or 4th best tight end they've played this year. Obviously, Ertz and Kittle are better. Graham Burton is arguable. So either the 3rd or 4th best. Some guys like RSJ and stuff have broken that ceiling against the Vikings. Bears defense is a solid start, though. Cousins getting sacked almost 3 times a game, and the Vikings are fumbling almost at the rate of 1 time per game on top of throwing a couple picks.
That's because of Kirk Cousins.
It is mostly because of Cousins.
He
He doesn't
fumbles a
throw
lot.
picks, but he fumbles a lot.
He fumbles his shit done.
Mac should be able to do some damage and keep the floor stable, and there's always a chance for a defensive touchdown. So if I'm picking between the 2, I like the Bears over the Vikings this week. I hate to say that.
I don't.
You didn't say it.
But this game could really go 1 or 2. I mean, this game could be a defensive struggle. It could be a shootout. It could go as a blowout in either direction. I cannot predict this game, and maybe that's just my fandom making me nervous, but hopefully optimistic. But yeah, this is going to be a fun one to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, this
If
is
you're betting this game, don't bet any teams against this. Like, don't bet the spread. I'm taking the over. I think this game goes over. I think both offenses are good enough to produce points in a tight matchup when the 4th quarter, 3rd quarter comes.
especially with the good chance of a defensive touchdown by one of the 2 teams to bolster that too.
Yeah.
Yep.
We do have a question before we move on.
All right, before we wrap this up, what is the question?
Project Badass again, Standard League, Flex option, Tariq Cohen, Deshaun Jackson, or Tyrell Williams.
Don't love any of them in standard. If I'm picking one, I'm taking Cohen.
Yeah, I'm going Cohen just because of the big play potential.
Yeah, Jackson Williams are pretty much one and the same. You're hoping for a touchdown and a big play. I think Cohen says a little more installation.
He's got
Even
a
in
little
standard.
more floor.
Little, yeah. Even in standard.
All right, Hopper, you're wrapping us up with the almost game of the year. 63 and a
I'm
half
so
point
excited.
over under.
I'm so glad I get to watch this.
3.5 point line. I have games where I'm running into 2 players out of this game on Monday night, so I have to be winning by 70 going in to have a chance.
To feel confident.
Chiefs facing the Rams in the on fire Los Angeles. They moved it from Mexico City. Hopper, who are we not starting in this game, and what are our
Notes.
expectations?
This is the shortest notes I've ever done. The only people you're not starting in this game are obviously both defenses.
Yes.
And then Josh Reynolds, Tyler Higbee, Gerald Everett. And I really just want to see who steps up in Cup's absence. So really, if you want to dart throw Josh Reynolds, I don't hate it. Chiefs are okay against tight ends, so I would kind of not get cute there. But everybody else, you are starting. It is going to be a shootout, and it might be the most fun game of the year. You're starting Mahomes, Goff, Hunt, Gurley, Hill, Watkins, Kelsey, Woods, Cooks. I mean, if it's an offensive player on either of these teams, you could make an argument for it.
Yeah, if you've started them at some point this season, you're starting them here.
You're starting them.
I
Yes.
really hope this isn't a blowout, and we're not a blowout for one team either way. I want this. I really want this to be
I
a
want
back
this
and
to live up
forth.
to the hype.
I want this to go up to 80 points. I want this and the Rams-Eagles game to be competing for the most points ever scored in a game combined.
I don't even know what that number is.
I don't know, but I want it to get there. We've been waiting for this, which means
I want a 54-51 Rams win.
it's going to end up being like 21 to like 14. Just some like bullshit defensive game.
I do not see any chance of that happening.
See, we say that. We say that. And then the Bills beat the Vikings in Minnesota. So
I just want to say well done, NFL, with the 3 primetime games this week, by the way, because Seahawks Packers was good. Bears Vikings is going to be good, and this one's going to be freaking amazing.
They had to flex Vikings Bears, so they didn't pre-schedule that one, but they did a good job.
The only thing that's going to suck about Monday night is the announcement. Is the announcers.
Just watch it on mute and comment. Just scream
I'm
at
just
the
glad
TV.
I get to watch a Monday night game, so we're good there.
All right. So as we said, start all the things in that game. If you're going up against players in that game, you're going to be holding your breath the whole night.
There's so many good offensive players. Probably on teams in fantasy that were pretty good this year.
Yeah. To wrap up, we'll be live 10:30 in the morning Sunday with coffee in hand to answer all your questions, get you ready to win your week. We got to get you a week 11 win here. We're getting down to the last couple. You got to get into the playoffs to get your chance at winning a beer fueled title. We got a couple of them last year. I want to multiply that number out this season and get significantly more. Dan, are you going to be there this week from St. Louis?
I will be in St. Louis with Hopper struggling.
I will be solo here in Springfield. We'll have Dan and Hopper down in St. Louis going live with you guys to answer all your questions. From St. Louis, we got Christopher Hopper.
At Hot BFF with 2 Ps. We'll see you guys on Sunday morning to get this fun week of games started.
Dan Thury.
At Thury BFF, pray to the fantasy gods for a good week.
I am Nick Sparts. We are at Beerfield FF on Twitter, Instagram, and Untapped. Thank you for all the listener questions that you brought into Beerfield Fantasy Football, and we'll catch you guys next time on Beerfield Fantasy Football.
Beerfield Fantasy Football.
Later.
See ya.
Beerfield.
Beer fuel.